many things that you have to do on board that it's like such a safety critical role. It's like I have to check my sugars before the doors. Before we do like doors to automatic and cross check, I have to check. And before I open a door and disarm slide, I have to check. Because if I make a mistake on the basis that my blood sugar is not correct, then that's it. I love my mum. She is so like, no matter her own self-doubts in my life, no mountain was too high and nothing was ever too much to want or work for. And she's the reason I come back stronger every time. Pure innocence of being so young and so carefree just dies.
Yeah.
It's hard. Where I was so poorly before, I was like, okay, I can deal with this. And my consultant said, you're allowed to.
Hi everyone, welcome to TypeCast Life Between the Lines, a diabetes podcast that goes beyond the target glucose. I'm your host, Natalie Balmain, winner of Channel 4's Make Me Prime Minister, Omnipod Ambassador, and General Do-Gooder of Diabetes. Juggling the ups and downs of diabetes can be challenging, so I'm here to connect you to some real people with real stories who all have one thing in common: type 1 diabetes. We'll be talking to some amazing guests over the course of this series, sharing laughs, tears, insights, and inspirational stories. So whether you're a seasoned pro or newly diagnosed, I hope you enjoy the podcast. If you do, you can make sure to watch, download, listen, and subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, or your favorite podcast app. I hope you enjoy the show. TypeCast, the podcast, features real stories from real people living with diabetes. But of course, none of this should be taken as medical advice. Always seek advice from your diabetes specialist team before making any changes. Hi, Diabuddies, and welcome to TypeCast Life Between the Lines, the podcast that takes things beyond your target glucose. Now, you've heard me speak before about the one thing that type 1 diabetes has given me that I actually love, and that is the community. You know, I'm sure it's the same for a lot of you. Whether you meet another type 1 online or in real life, they quickly become your close friends. And that is absolutely true of today's guest, who I actually met while we were both filming Make Me Prime Minister. Now, she was only actually diagnosed 2 years before doing a reality show, which shows you just how crazy she is. And to make things even crazier, she now works as a long-haul air hostess. So we're going to dig into just how she manages to do all of that while coping and managing her type 1 diabetes. So everybody, please welcome my friend, Verity Pitts.
Hello.
Hey, V.
How are you?
Thank you for coming today because you've just stepped off a 9-hour flight 2 hours ago.
Yeah,
You've not
talk about that. I've not slept, I've not eaten.
How long have you not slept for?
26 hours?
I'll try and go gentle with you. No promises.
Oh dear. Oh no.
So listen, as I said in your introduction, we met filming Make Me Prime Minister. And it was one of those classic sort of diabetes in real life moments, wasn't it?
The green room.
Yes.
Lunchtime.
First day.
You had to isolate, didn't you? You were late.
Yes. So, well, didn't we all have to isolate?
We all isolated, but you arrived late, I think, because you were with a few other cast members that then came late. Because we'd already made friends with like Adam, and then Darius and you turned up together.
Oh, yes.
In a separate
remember.
taxi, and Holly.
Yes. And we were sat in the green room, and you spotted my sensor on my arm.
There. Radar was on.
Radar.
It was like
one radar.
Saw it, and I was like.
And I just remember hearing this voice from the right of me go, "Is that a sensor? Is that a glucose monitor?" And I went, "Are you type 1?" And that was it. That was it. So firm friends. But we filmed that back in 2022.
Yeah.
And what I thought was particularly crazy about you was you'd only been diagnosed 2 years prior.
Yeah.
And during the pandemic, of all things. So can you tell us a little bit about that? Because diabetes diagnoses are difficult enough anyway. But you couldn't go into hospital, right? Is that, or did you go into
I went into hospital, but I couldn't see anyone. So I remember like texting my mum, because I remember I'd only recovered from sepsis 6 months before. So I automatically was a bit like, oh, I'm fine. My mum's a nurse. She's like, a bit like, oh, actually, maybe not. I had a hairdresser's appointment. I think I remember telling you this, that I went and got my hair done and I almost collapsed in the chair.
Yes.
And then I came home and I was like, I can't breathe properly. There's something wrong. And I remember my mum taking me to hospital and I had a little bag packed. And I remember going in and her just waiting outside because she was trying to, figure out the vibe of what you could do and what you couldn't do. And then I texted her and I was like, oh, just to let you know. I remember them doing my blood test, going in quite quickly and then being like, any chance you could be diabetic? No chance. Nothing. No, absolutely
what a strange
not.
thing to ask.
But I think it's because they'd done my bloods and my sugar and my ketones were obviously really high.
What a strange thing to ask you.
I was like, no chance. None whatsoever. And I remember sitting there and then being taken onto majors. You know where you sit? You've got the beds right in front of the doctor's desk. And I remember seeing my name on the board with DKA. And I kept texting my mum being like, yeah, diagnosis, not known or something. And she was like, well, it can't be that because there's no K and not. And I was like, no, I know, but I don't know what it is.
Oh, right. So you were trying to work out what DKA stood
Just
for.
no one was telling me.
Okay,
and I was like,
I get it.
No idea. And then I remember them coming over and being like, okay, we need to catheter you. And I was like, absolutely not. 20 years old. I was like, no. I was like, I didn't have a catheter 6 months ago when I had sepsis from a UTI. It was like, absolutely not. And then I remember just getting worse and worse. And they kept coming over and checking my bloods, my blood sugar and my ketones.
So hang on, they put DKA on the board. They were checking your bloods, but they hadn't explained to you what DKA was.
No.
Oh my goodness.
But I don't know if that was the innocence of just being 20.
Yeah.
I think I had a lot of PTSD from when I was really, really poorly. I was really poorly both times, but 1 minute I woke up and I was like 5 days later I woke up after sepsis with my mum and I was just like, can't remember any of it. And then you kind of go back into hospital and you're suddenly starting to get ill again and you're like, okay, what's going on? And then I remember going up to intensive care and still no one told me.
Wow.
And I remember them just being like, you've got no potassium. And I was texting my mum. And
so then they're giving you all the cardio checkers.
Yeah. And my mum's there and she's like, nurse mode is on. And when mum's in nurse mode, nothing. Yeah. She's not a mum, she's a nurse. And I just remember kind of being there, sitting there, going, yeah, I'm not this ill. And then a surgeon comes to put femoral lines in. So I had one in my neck and one in my groin. And I remember them coming to do that. And it was all local anaesthetic, so it was so painful. And it was the middle of the night. And my mum had gone to bed, but she probably hadn't. She was still probably awake. And I just remember them being like, yeah, you've got no potassium. So, the risk of cardiac arrest is really high. And I was like, okay. Well,
thanks.
I'm not this ill, but why am I here? No one told me. And then the next day, they phoned my mum and they were like, okay, we need you to come in because we're not sure how the news is going to go because it's not fair to deliver the news when you're sat there and you've got all these people dying. I just remember sitting there and going, I'm not this ill. And then someone died next to me. And then I remember my mum coming in and I just, you know me, I don't cry.
Yeah.
Just sobbed. And then they were like, they told me, but they don't give you any knowledge behind it. They're like, oh, but you have to let the DVLA know. You can't do this and you can't do that. And I'm like, okay, well, can someone give me a positive in this situation? Just give me something. And I remember my mum coming in. She came in with some snacks because I couldn't eat anything because they didn't cater for my celiac disease.
Yeah.
Because they weren't expecting me to eat because I was so poorly that I probably shouldn't have been sitting up. And medical comas were talked about and you're just kind of sat there and it's like you become a piece of art on the wall and everyone forgets. And you're just sat there and you're like, what do I do now?
Yeah, this is me you're talking about. Hi.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's...
But honestly, the nurses, amazing. Because my mum would come in for an hour every day. And they would brush my hair if I didn't feel up to it. They would plait my hair and they'd bring me something. They'd go and find me, or they'd go to Costa and get me something. And then my mum would repay with she'd bring them a coffee. And they, my GP phoned my mum every day when I was on ITU because he blamed himself because he was like, I should have picked it up sooner. But it's obviously where I'd had my celiac diagnosis and then I'd had sepsis. And it was just a tumbleweed. And he was like, I should have picked it up sooner. And he blamed himself, but he shouldn't.
Yeah, that's a huge... So you were diagnosed celiac and then had sepsis and then had your type 1 diagnosis all in the same year?
No, like literally it was 1 year after each.
1 year after.
Well, not even
So celiac and then
sepsis and then 6 months later. Great.
That's a huge amount to deal with in one go. And you know, the type 1 diabetes diagnosis, we know now how much information you have to take in. But then you had the added thing of being celiac. So you thinking about your diet, thinking about what you're eating, thinking about what you might need to eat. And, you know, sometimes when you're having a hypo, you're like, the choice is limited. So
honestly,
how did you kind of wrap your head around that initially? Were you just like, okay, I need to like have a knowledge of what sort of sweet treats?
The reason I fell back in love with baking. I think where I obviously was so poorly with food, I fell out of love with it completely. Food, baking, all of it. But then it became my like serenity. It was my safe haven where I knew exactly what was going into it. I could work it all out myself. And it was safe. And it was just normality. I didn't have to worry because I'd already learnt the celiac. I could get over that. And then I was trying to and then obviously like sepsis changed my life because it made me just appreciate being alive. And then I think as much as like I didn't die, I think the pure innocence of my 20s died. And I think you know that.
Yeah.
Because when we've spoken about this before, you were diagnosed at 20 as well, weren't you?
Yes, same age.
And you know that pure innocence of being so young and so carefree just dies.
Yeah.
And it's hard, but I think where I was so poorly before, I was like, okay, I can deal with this. But I think sometimes you have to. And my consultant said to me, he was like, just grieve. You're allowed to grieve.
That is such an important thing. I'm so glad you used that word grieve, because I've talked about this before. It is like grieving. People sometimes don't understand why.
Yeah.
You're grieving the loss of the person you thought you were going to be and the future that you thought you were going to have.
And you get to 20 and you've grown up. You've realised, okay, I've become this person. I've learnt this. I've learnt that lesson. I've done this or I've not done that.
You think you have an idea of who you are.
You're like, right,
you?
okay, so the next thing for me, and like, so many people don't know this about me, but I have my heart set on being a medic in the army. Because like my only thing, and I looked back at my school books with mum the other day and I was like, when Verity grows up, she wants to be, and it just says help people. And that's literally it. And I think that's why I fell into the job that I do now. Because like as much as it's, you know, you get people from A to B or hospitality, because I've done that for 11 years since I was like 13. So it's like, it's helping people in a respect that you don't know what's going on at home.
And that brings me on beautifully to the next topic that I would like to talk about, because you are a long-haul air hostess. Yeah. And I'm so proud of you because I got to watch that journey, because you obviously applied after we met each other and had become friends and done the show. So I got to see you pass all your tests, get your uniform for the first time and take your first flight. And you've even come and visited me while I've been in LA, and you had a long haul flight out there, and you were literally there for 24 hours, weren't you? You flew in.
Bit longer in LA because the time difference.
Yes. So
I just got back from Nashville, and because it's only 6 hours behind, we literally got 28 hours or something, key to key.
And it's such a big deal because, you know, we get so many people talk about traveling with type 1. I've talked before about I didn't travel for a long time after my diagnosis because it's not just the planning and the prep and getting things with you. It is the idea of changing time zones. Is my body clock going to change something? The heat, foreign food in a restaurant that you haven't got a carb, count for. It's all of those things. But then you have the added pressure of you can't go, okay, I'm going to be here for 2 weeks and then we'll settle, and you are in and then you're out and then you're in a different time zone. So how are you doing that?
I think my body's just, for me, because I've always done shifts. Like I tried a 9 to 5 job. I quit 2 days in. I texted my mum and I was like, I'm out. couldn't hack it. And it was where she worked. She was like, don't do this to me, please. And I was like, I'm out. I literally went to the toilet, texted her boss and was like, I'm done. And then got another job in hospitality.
Yes, because you did hospitality for
It's what I know. Yeah. It's what my body clock knows. That I think it was the only thing that kept me very sane, is that I knew I could do that.
Do you think that was maybe, because you're a bit of a rebel. You're like me. Do you think that there's an element of that was kind of like, in a way, stoicism, in a way, rebelling?
Yeah.
And going,
absolutely,
I'm not going to let type 1 force me to have a regimented life because it's not what I want.
Yeah.
And I'm going to overcome it.
And I remember being on Leathermere where you had to take it at 10 o'clock. And I remember where I was working it was just before the show. And they had these rules about no, like, shirts upstairs. So you had to go to the staff house to go to the toilet and whatever. And I'd be like, right, okay, just to let you know, it's coming up. It's like 5 to 10. Can I go? No, you can't go. I was like, well, I have to go. I was like, I need to go and do it now. And then it would be like, no, you can't go. And then I'd be like, it'd be 10 past 10. And she's like, well, 10 minutes doesn't matter. And I'm like, but 10 minutes does. In the whole scenario of why you have to take it at 10 o'clock is because it does matter. Mm. And they would never quite grasp it. And I remember sitting on the floor by the pot wash. And I remember one of the managers coming in and being like, oh, okay. And another one being like, why aren't you looking after your section? And I'm like, I'm 2.4. I can't see. And if I carry a plate, I'm going to drop it.
Yeah.
And I just remember them being like, they didn't grasp it in the way that you think people will grasp it, or you want them to grasp it. You want someone to go, okay, I get it. Mm. And they don't.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, we could talk for ages, couldn't we, about all the multiple factors.
Yeah.
Visible illness, and a lot of people just want to take you at face value and how they see you.
And then it's when it started to affect my job, and I'd be like, whoa, this isn't normal. Mm. You know, I was so used to running high without realising that I was like, this isn't normal and I can't do this job. And then had a break because we filmed. So let's dig into that for a second, because it was 2 years after your diagnosis that you decided you were going to go on a national reality show. Josh actually applied for me.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't really have any idea. Josh wrote my application.
So let's just explain for a second who Josh is, because you were diagnosed type 1 during the pandemic, 2020, and
social media was my best friend. You know, I sat there on Instagram scrolling.
And you had a friend, didn't you?
Yeah.
You was friends with Josh.
Yeah, so my friend Amy was in, like, you know, content creators group, and Josh was in there, and they became friends. And then she shared one of Josh's videos which spoke all about his diagnosis. And he was only diagnosed by the prick of a finger because his granddad's diabetic, so he just tested his blood sugar.
Actually, that's how I was.
And was like
the GP with a
27 point something.
Yeah.
And then I followed him, and he followed me, and then we just spoke day in, day out.
So
hours.
Was Josh the first other type 1 that you'd ever met?
First ever type 1.
Wow. And so he applied for Make Me Prime Minister for you.
Yes. No,
I'm going to have a word with Josh.
I know.
Because I thought you were crazy that day that we met in the green room.
I think
we talked about how long we've been diagnosed. Yeah. To me, I hadn't wrapped my head around any of it 2 years in. I was like a bumbling mess. So for you to think, yeah, okay, I can do this. Like, are you mad?
Yeah. I think no one thought it would go as far as it did. Mm. Do you know what I mean? It's one of those things, isn't it? It's like you put your application in for like MasterChef or something, and you don't think it's on the back burner, and then you never get it. But I think my problem is that I'm so fiercely independent, and nothing will stop me from doing anything that I had to do it.
So in a way, it's that interesting thing of your perspective, how you skew things, right? Because you call it fiercely independent and this, that, and the other, but actually it's kind of been your motivation, hasn't it? It's been your motivation to get through shift work. It was your motivation to get through a reality show and to become a lot
Got me
more...
through the marathon.
Yeah. Yes, we haven't even talked about the marathon. Just casually dropping that in there.
Crazy.
You ran
Crazy
the
girl.
London Marathon this year.
Yes. I've got 2 more booked. Have I told you this?
Yes, what you're doing, New York
And Berlin.
And Berlin.
Yeah.
This year. So you're going to do 3 marathons this year.
3 marathons this year, 4 next year. And then I'm done.
Okay.
Am I done? Or
No,
will I do an ultra?
I don't think you'll ever be done, Fee, to be quite honest.
I want my 6th major marathon medal at London, so I have to do London again.
Okay.
So that's 4 next year. And then will I do an ultra? Probably. And then will I be done? Yes.
I told you this girl was crazy. So, okay. It's your motivation, but it's still challenging, right?
Yeah.
Any of it, the shift work, the air hostessing, running a marathon. What was your prep like for running the marathon?
I didn't do enough, I don't think. When it rained, I was like, nah, maybe not. I did a lot of strength training.
Okay.
And I just remember going to my PT and I just walked in one day and I went, Lewis, just to let you know, I'm running the London Marathon, but I can't run 5K. And he just looked at me like I was crazy. And then once I ran it, I literally went to him, oh, by the way, I'm doing 2 more. And the man looks at me every day and is like, oh, God, what's this girl going to bring me today?
You're not a complete example of mind over matter. I actually don't know what is. But what about fueling? What were you, come on, be honest with me. How were you managing your bloods? Were they okay? Were you having to refuel for having hypers, or were you running high?
I ran high for quite a lot, and then I had diabetic review, and I went to my consultant. I was like, just to let you know, running a marathon, and he looked at me like I was crazy, as does everyone. And he was like, okay, what are you doing? I was like, oh, well, I'm running slightly higher, and he was like, don't do that. And then
how do you feel when you're high? Because I feel like my legs are made of lead. I can't imagine running a marathon high.
I think if I was to go back like 2 years now, running high was normal. I didn't feel anything. Normal blood sugar I felt.
So you'd been running high to the point where normal blood sugar made you feel a bit hypo.
It just made me feel not hypo, but I just was a bit like, oh, why do I feel so energized?
Oh, okay.
Because I hadn't felt that for so long, and everyone was like, "Oh no, it's only because your body's getting better. You're getting better," and I'm like, "Okay, yeah, sure." And then I was like, and he was like, "Just don't run high." He was like, "Run
at the higher end of
average of where you should be, but don't run any higher than that." He goes, because then that's where you'll feel fatigue. And as soon as I got that changed my whole training program.
So suddenly you actually went from like, I can't run 5K to I can run a marathon.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong, it was tough and there were quite a few tears. But I think like Josh came to the marathon and he didn't get there because he comes from Liverpool. So he got there at mile 19, I think. And my whole driving force was 19 miles. I can see Josh. I got to mile 17 and I was like, and it's like Canary Wharf and it's horrible. It's so boring. It's so quiet. And I could just hear him. Oh. And I was like, and he's there with his sign.
I remember his picture because he took a picture of you as you were running past behind him.
And then he ran. And then he literally, as I was running past him, he ran on the other side of the fence and then got to Big Ben. And he was like, and then ran down the road with like Amy on FaceTime. Oh. So we were running and then he was like 300 yards. You've got it. Go, go, go. And I just remember that was it. Just crumbled.
I mean,
300 yards. I was longest 300 yards I've ever seen. Just kept going. It's the Mall by Buckingham Palace and you're like 500 yards at the London Eye and you're like, absolutely not. And then you see 385 yards. You're like, it's still going. The worst bit is when you have to get your bag.
What, because you're just done by that point?
You get your medal and you get your little like tinfoil blanket and you're stood there and you're freezing cold and you can't warm up. And then you have to walk all the way down to the gates to get your bag. And you're like, sorry?
Does someone not carry me for this long?
And then you have to walk to find your friends. And you're like, and I just remember I couldn't walk. I literally sat down and I couldn't go back on.
What, shall I share my funny marathon story with you? Because I was never supposed to, wasn't supposed to be running a marathon.
Go on.
So, have you ever come across Gavin Griffiths?
Yes.
So, shout out Gavin, my buddy. He's incredible. You've probably seen he, at one point, I think it was 2018, 2019, ran 25 marathons in 30 days, something like that. Obviously, he lives with type 1. And so he did them, he planned his own routes around various cities, and he just went and did it. And he came to do Manchester, and he said, Nat, do you want to come and run a bit of the way with me? You know, it'd be great. And I was like, yeah, this is great. I thought, I'm only going to run half a marathon will be fine. I can do half a marathon. I was quite fit. I was like, I don't need to train. It's all good. But what actually ended up happening, not only, that was the one day in history that I can remember where it was 32 degrees in Manchester.
I was so glad when it started to rain.
It was the hottest day it's ever been in Manchester, and I'm running a part of a marathon. But what happened was, Gavin was starting. I knew his route. And I guess I must have just over-anticipated how quickly he would get through it. And I thought, well, if I go to the end of the route and walk backwards, I'll meet him and then I'll run the last bit with him. Except because I got my times wrong, I basically walked half a marathon this way and then ran half a marathon back. Which I wasn't prepared to do. There was a big uphill bit going through Stockport. There was 32 degrees. And I actually... it was probably less than a mile from the finish line. My legs gave up. That was it. I actually, there was no way I could take another step. So I went to these guys, carry on, it's fine. And I got a taxi the last half a mile back.
I just remember sitting on the train and the sheer sickness. I felt I was sat there, head in my hands, and I was like...
And how were your blood glucose at that point afterwards?
I was actually... I don't know if I told you this. I was so in the zone and my adrenaline was so high.
Because the adrenaline makes you go high.
Yeah, I ran for 3 miles at 2.7. And I just remember all of a sudden going, I don't feel very well. And I literally saw the medical tent and I was like, but in my head, I was like, right, I have to go. But my heart was like, no, it's fine. Because I was worried that they were going to say you can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
And that's what I didn't want. Because that was my...
once again, you're not letting the medics go anywhere. And we're going to touch on this later in the second half of the show.
And I just remember going...
to medics.
Have you got any, glucogel? And they just looked at me and I was like... They were like, oh, we've got sweets. I was like, it's just because my blood sugar... And they were like, are you type 1? I was like, yeah. And they
just running points?
She just gave me, these... about 4 tubes, and I remember she was just tucking them in my running vest.
Wow.
And she's like, I'm going to give you this sticker and put this yellow sticker on my number. Took some details and then was like, have one. It brought me up quite quickly, and she was like, I'm going to let you go on the proviso that you check at the next medical tent. Okay. And I did.
Okay.
And I was like, and it was fair enough. And they were like, okay, here's gluten-free biscuit. Off you go.
Wow. I mean, I'm amazed that they had the gluten-free biscuits there because you had a bit of a struggle with that on maybe Prime Minister, didn't you?
Just a little bit.
Because they bought us. It was a Sainsbury's bag. I remember
yours had Nat's hypo treatments and mine had Verity's hypo treatments.
Because you had to have separate gluten-free ones.
Yeah.
I also remember giving people a little insight into TV catering here. You remember the catering people? Now, they knew we were type 1.
Yeah, but they put on yours, didn't they? They put type 2.
They put type 2.
Fuming.
Well, because what they'd done is, by labelling it that, they decided that I couldn't have any carbs. So all of my meals were carb-free. And I was going, I am on my feet for 12 to 15 hours a day. I need some bloody carbs.
I remember when we were sitting in the, what was it, the boardroom or whatever.
Oh, the Cobra room.
And I remember
Cabinet Office, boardroom A.
Saida going, is Verity all right? And I'm there and I'm like,
Love
can I
Saida.
Get my bag? And they're like, no. Can we just finish this bit? And I'm like, and Brandon's there. He's like, Verity really needs her bag. We have a duty of care. Mm. And they're like, yeah, but can we just finish this bit? And Saida's like, is Verity all right?
Shout out Baroness Varsi. We love you. Hi, Sam.
And I was like, yeah, I'll be fine in a minute.
So, okay. We've talked about some of the
just jump, don't we?
I know, this is what happens when you and I get together. But we've talked about the mishaps. We've talked about the show and the travel and the shift work. I mean, it all comes down to planning, really, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Is that your top tip for anyone who wants to do what you're doing? It's just
no.
What your tip is, just don't do it.
Do you know what? I think the biggest downfall with the job that I do is if you aren't strong-willed, then you're going to find it hard. Because I just came back from Nashville. I mean, we landed, crew transport, hotel, checked in, shower, changed, downstairs. No one's eaten since the flight. Like, you've got rubbish aeroplane food. No one's eaten since the flight. You're all sat there. You're going, right, okay, let's have a sober one tonight, guys. No one has a sober one. We were there. I was like, absolutely, sober one. That's what I'm going for. I was like, I can't spend any money. I've got Vegas next week. San Diego 2 weeks ago. Phoenix. I've spent so much money. I've drunk too much.
So basically,
3 a.m.
your advice is to people who want to emulate your life.
You have to be strong-willed.
Is that so my introduction was right. You basically have to be crazy.
Yeah. Because I just remember going, and I remember it's like the sweating. Do you know when you get so hot and like as a diabetic you sweat so much more? I remember we were in the middle of the spa and we were dancing to country music. And I just remember everyone being like, are you all right? I was like, yeah, just a bit hot.
There is
just a bit warm.
That thing, isn't it? You're in a warm place and you start sweating, you go, am I just hot or am I hypo?
Yeah. And I was like, I'm just a bit warm. Just really warm. Like, and I was like, it's 38 degrees in Nashville.
We could make a game show out of this. It'd be you and me sitting here sweating and it'd just be hot or hypo. Guess. Hot or hypo.
I was just remember being there like, just need a drink. And then some man tried to take my phone out of my pocket. And I was because I have my wits about me about my phone. I would happily lose my crew device. Not happily lose my crew device, but would happily, if someone came over to me and was like, hand me your phone, I'd be like, hey, take it. Take my crew device. They can cancel it.
Yeah,
anytime.
because you've got my
personal phone. I'm there.
Yeah. Phone. Yeah. And that is always that is always my worry. That's a legitimate worry, because for anybody getting their phone stolen is not nice. But when you've got your glucose numbers on your phone, getting your phone stolen, it's like, no, that is not going to happen.
No. And it was just so like, but you do have to be strong-willed in the respect that you are okay to say no.
Yes, I think
because I was important. I just was there like, okay, I'm done now. I'll stay out, but I don't want any more to drink.
And that's so true, I think, for anyone in any situation living with type 1. You have to be able to feel like you can stand up for yourself and say what you need.
And they were all like, okay, well, we're going to stay out even later. And I was like, do you know what? I've not slept. I've not eaten. I'm starving. And I was like, I'm just going to go back to the hotel. Because you have to be okay with missing out. And I think I'm fine with missing out. As long as like you work out the crew. I'm fine with missing out sometimes.
But in another way, you're not missing out because you're looking after your health, and that's enabling you to do things like your job and running several marathons. Means,
like there are so many things that you have to do on board that it's like such a safety critical role that if you aren't in that right place, like I have to check my sugars before the doors, before we do like doors to automatic and cross check. So before we arm a slide, I have to check, and before I open a door and disarm a slide, I have to check. Because if I make a mistake on the basis that my blood sugar is not correct, then
you're liable.
That's it.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah,
I just can't afford £50,000 to put a slide back in. No, thank you.
Yeah, it's when you find out costs of things like that you kind of go.
And then you're like, can't open a jet bridge, can't open the door. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, that's interesting.
You just have to I always have spares of everything.
Yeah. That's the golden nugget, isn't it? Have more spares than you need.
And I remember my doctors changed my prescription all the time. Like I got an electric pen the other day.
Oh, you got a smart pen?
And I was like, this is great. Apart from Nashville's 38 degrees and I have to take an extra cartridge with me. Nowhere to put it. And they're like, oh, so I'm like, well, can I have both? And they're like, yeah, that's fine.
Oh, I see. So they changed you from disposable pens on
because they can stay out, whereas I still need to put a cartridge in the fridge. But certain hotels have the mini fridges that are all weighted. So then you can't put anything in the fridge. And you're like, defeats the object. Because there are certain rules that we have to have. So we have to have a gym, we have to have water in the room, and we have to have a mini fridge. But it doesn't matter if it's a weighted one or not. And then obviously you get a room service bill if it starts to change, and you're like, over it.
Yeah, you should just. I would clap back. I'd be like, hang on. If the weight's increased, that means I've put stuff in your minibar. You should be paying me.
Yeah. But there's no room to put anything in there because they've stocked them so much. And you're like,
yeah. That's a really interesting point. I'd never thought about weighted minibar fridges. So
I always have hypo treatments. Then people are like, oh, I'll just have a Percy Pig. And
go on then. Preferred
absolutely not.
Preferred hypo treatment for travelling.
Percy Pigs.
Percy Pigs.
Yeah.
There we go. You heard it here, guys. Percy Pigs.
Percy Pigs all the way. M&S. Straight in there. Run in. I'm there like, get me some of my Percy Pigs.
I had a mad one in Dallas airport once because I had a layover, change there, and I started having a hypo, and I'd never been to Dallas airport, and I was like running around going, where am I going to get stuff? But yeah, there you go. So
yeah, always got a few tubes of glucogel in my bag now as well.
Glucogel tastes gross.
I know, but I had a hypo. I've told you this after the LA when I came out to see you. I had a hypo on board, didn't I?
Yeah, you did tell me.
40 minutes to landing. So then I had to open the M5 kit because I just looked at them and was like, I'm going to die in a minute. And they were like, right. And I was like, you don't have 20 minutes to get through to Medlink. I was like, I'm telling you right now what I need, and you just have to go with that.
Yeah.
And it goes against policy and procedure. But at the end of the day, like, I know what's going on.
Yeah.
And I remember Medlink being like, okay, well, you need to give her 2. And I was like, absolutely not. 1's enough. And the IFM being like, 2? I was like, no, just go with what I'm saying. Yeah. I was like, that's fine. They're medical professionals. It's like, all fine. But I know me. They don't know me right now. So just go with what I'm saying. Oh, and the drama that opening that M5 kit caused. Fine. We're here for it. But I literally phoned my consultant and was like, can you put glucogel on my prescription, please? And he was like, yeah, sorted. Done.
Good. Well, I'm glad that is sorted for you. And thank you for sharing with us some of the many pitfalls of flying. I mean, we do. We get through, don't we? And I think that's the beautiful thing that I think is the golden thread between everybody living with type 1 is, listen, we know it's going to go wrong sometimes. But, we build in coping mechanisms. We get through. And
you just put your big boy pants on, don't you? You put your socks up and you're like, right, okay. It's like going to school for the first time. You just put your socks up and you walk in like confident. Fake it till you make it. And we're there.
You can see why I love this guy.
Oh no.
Oh, well, V, thank you so much for being so open and having such an honest chat with us about life.
Only because you're here.
But I hope you'll stay with me. If I can just take a quick break, I'm going to bring you back for a bit more of a fun chat.
Stunning.
That's all right.
Amazing.
Thank you. Right, everybody, we are going to be back after a short break and a message from our sponsors. As many of you know, I've lived with type 1 diabetes for over 16 years now, and it certainly comes with its challenges. Whether that's the sleepless nights, the constant glucose checking, knowing what you want to eat so you can bolus in good time, or any of the 40 or so odd factors that affect our glucose levels. After living on multiple daily injections for over 10 years, I knew I needed something different. But I had a wish list. I wanted something that was going to help me with my diabetes management, but without imposing on my life too much. Then in 2018, I met Omnipod. An insulin pump, but different. It's a pump without tubes. Omnipod lets me live my life without multiple daily injections or the worry of my clumsy self pulling my tubing out. Omnipod helps me live my life my way without compromising my diabetes management or my quality of life. If you'd like to try a demo pod, you can order your own pod experience kit from omnipod.com/typecast and try it out for yourself. The link is in the description. Now, back to Typecast. Hi and welcome back everyone to part 2 of Typecast with my friend Verity. Hey V.
Hey.
Hey, so...
God, I sounded really manly then. I was like, really deep. Oh, God.
So,
Came over me.
I feel like I'm going to say this is the light-hearted part of the show, but actually I think our whole episode has just been...
I think you know by now, nothing with me is that deep.
No.
I nearly died, but it's not that deep.
This is the whole sassy pants attitude of you that I just fell in love with.
Counting 9 lives is me.
Yeah, absolutely.
About
I
4
love
left.
it. I love it because, we all react to things in different ways. We all deal with things in different ways. And actually, I just think it's just sassy. I just love it. It's just like, yeah, and what are you going to do to me?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, this is the light-hearted second half of the show. So I do want to chat about one of your funny stories.
Oh, God.
That I actually already know personally.
Yes.
Because
you were involved in it.
I was involved. So we've told people we met on Make Me Prime Minister and found out on day one that we were both living with type 1 diabetes. And can I just say, the real shame of Make Me Prime Minister was that we were never put on the same team.
But we were given a reason as to why. It's because we were forced to be reckoned with.
Well, yes, that is true.
And everyone would have lost.
That's true. So we were always filming separately.
Yeah.
On every task, every episode, every day.
We were always in the same building most of the time.
Yeah, just somewhere down a corridor. But, we've already said you had only been diagnosed 2 years prior. And of course, like anybody, you were still struggling with highs and lows.
Always.
And you did have a couple of, they were quite low.
They were quite low.
You had a couple of ones that, shook me to my core. But
I've given my mum the fright of her life. I've also given you the fright of your life, I think.
I feel for your mum every day.
Especially when I go, just to let you know, I've jumped out of a plane.
What?
Oh, no, I haven't done that yet. But we did something. I went tubing in Phoenix. And I was like, just to let you know, 3 hours ago I was tubing down this really random lake. I was like, it went to the sea and these paddleboarders had to rescue us. But it's all good because, I'm just going for a nap now. And she's like, what?
Poor mum.
I'm like, I'm just going for a nap before pick up, all right? Night.
Yeah, nearly died. Going to sleep now. Bye.
Literally. She's used to it now, I think.
I mean, like I said, your poor mum. But look, you did have, let's be real for a second. You had a couple of serious lows.
Yeah.
And listen, I just want to say, shout out to Kingsley. We had an amazing medic.
Yeah, he was great. We had a great time.
I loved Kingsley, our medic. But you didn't want Kingsley to look after you, did you, when you were having your lows?
Well,
he
was great. I just feel like his face kind of showed, I'm very much, if I don't say it, my face is going to say it. His face kind of showed that he was a bit concerned. And I was like, oh, that'll be fine. It's fine. Now I won't care. Now I just know what to do.
So you kind of chose me because I looked more, in control of looking at you?
I just think because I think... But it's like, I remember feeding you sweets whilst you're on the phone. Yeah. Your mum and your mum being like, no.
Yeah, my stepmom.
Yeah. That's what I meant. Yeah. Sorry.
No. But it was hilarious because you had these lows. The medic tried to look after you and you were like, no, I want Nat. So not only did you manage to stop your filming, you managed to stop the other team's filming so they could drag me out.
Yeah. Only so I could get the goss. No, I'm joking. Which it really...
Oh, it was a tactical.
Tactical. No, it wasn't. We did have fun though. We did just sit in the corridor and just talk.
Yeah.
And then they'd be like, guys, your mics are on. Can you stop? And then they'd send someone in. They'd Dan would just come in and he'd just be like, yeah, okay, whatever.
Yeah. No, but that was real, wasn't it? We had our mics on all the time, even when we had to go to the toilet.
Yeah, mics were on. Even at lunchtime.
We had to be chaperoned to go to the toilet. This is the inside scoop for everybody on.
No talking about tactics over here.
Yeah.
Sorry, can I just go to the toilet? Oh no, the other team are in the toilet. Can you just wait a minute?
But let's be real. It was a bonding experience for us. Not only did we go through this crazy show together.
I think we had keys to each other's rooms by the end.
We had keys to each other's rooms. I was your on-site nurse.
I was yours, but you didn't quite need me quite as much as I needed you.
But you were also our on-site baker.
That is true.
I
take that crown.
We stayed in a little apartment hotels at a tiny kitchenette, and yet you somehow managed to bake custom cakes for basically everyone on the show. Yeah. So it
wasn't my stress reliever.
No, but your baking is amazing.
Thank you.
Shout out to Verity's baking.
My cooking's half decent too.
It's good. Good. Okay, right. We're gonna switch it up. We're gonna go to the next part of the show. Okay. So if you have a little look under the table there, you will find some cards. You can just put them on the sofa next to you.
I feel like a news presenter.
I'm gonna fire some quick fire questions.
Oh, okay.
If that's all right. So each time I ask a question, I would like you to hold up the card to the camera with your answer, but could you also say it as well?
They were different answers.
What?
They were different answers.
Yeah, one on each side. One on each side. Okay, got it? All right. Let's go.
It's been a long day.
I know. I said I was going to go easy on you, and I'm really not. But I love you. You know that, don't you?
Yeah.
All right. First question, B. Pump or multiple daily injections?
That one.
Because you've not been on a pump yet.
No.
So that's fair.
Daily
That's
injections for me.
That's the only answer that you could
I'm
really give.
I'm currently getting one because of my job.
Ooh, exciting.
So.
Okay. All right. Well, I definitely know you can answer this question.
Oh, okay.
CGM or finger pricks?
Oh, CGM. Changed my life.
I don't think we need really much further explanation on that one, do we? Okay. Phone or text? Are you a caller or are you a texter?
A voice noter. So not really either, but
yeah.
Text.
You know what? I'm one of those really annoying people.
I literally send you voice notes.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all I do. Send everyone voice notes apart from my mum.
But I'm one of those annoying people that I don't listen to voice notes straight away for ages because I'm like, I can't listen here.
You don't read anything for ages. I send you a message and I'm like 6 weeks later, are you alive? Oh yeah, really sorry, forgot to reply.
You know that's not personal, right? You know I do that to everybody.
God. Yeah, right. Okay.
No, honestly, I'm the worst person for messaging.
I didn't see that when we only had our phone one day a week at Make Me Prime Minister and you were there.
Yeah, because we did it for half an hour a week to call our family and tell them we were still alive.
Yeah, that's true.
So, forgive me. All right, next one. Insta or TikTok?
Oh, always love an Insta. Love a TikTok, but TikTok's for like my crew life. Insta's for all my...
And can we just
stunning photos.
Can we just say, because you've been getting some requests, haven't you? Because you've been doing a bit about being a T1D long haul air hostess, and I know you've had some amazing comments from people saying they want to see more of that content.
So. Do you know who commented the other day? Sheldon. Her boyfriend is type 1 diabetic. She's like, this really helped me. I was like, stop. I won an Amazon Alexa off her like many years ago. Still.
She's competition queen, this girl. Social media competition queen. You tag me in so many competitions.
I never win them though.
I'm hoping one of the times that it's like a fancy holiday or...
Yeah, I know. Well, you just come with me instead. There you go.
No, I need to come
fancy
with
holiday.
Okay.
Cheap fancy holiday.
All right. I know neither of these options are nice, but if you had to choose, high or low?
High.
Do you want to expand on that a bit?
I just feel... I don't know. I feel like it's... I'd rather be high because I feel it's easier to come down. I feel like low, I feel like it takes me a lot longer. And I think I get like PTSD from the feeling. It's the same type of feeling I had when I was lying there going, it's my mum, I'm going to die. Okay, like it's the same level of feeling. So I think that's
interesting. It's why I love asking these questions because I find it harder to come down from a high. Like I can bring myself out of a low quite quickly. So that's really interesting to hear how that impacts you. All right, next one. Juice or sweets?
Oh, sweets. I'm not a juice fan.
No, you've
Diet Coke or water, and I'm down.
You've already declared your affiliation to Percy Pig, so. Okay, fashion question, fashion queen. Crocs or not?
Oh, I don't own a pair of Crocs. I do like Crocs on the right people, but not for me.
Not for me either. Not for me. Okay, final question. Oh, God. HbA1c or time in range?
Time and range. I feel like HbA1c is over like 3 months. Yeah. I need positive impact all the time.
Oh, so it's because you get to see the time in range.
Oh, I'm actually doing really well. Good job. have to give myself a pat on the back. And then I have to reward myself with something that I'm going to go, shouldn't have had that, but that's fine.
So basically, you don't want HbA1c because it just doesn't come quickly enough for you. You want to be able to see the daily.
I don't feel I get the positive recognition that I should be getting. My HbA, well done, it's gone down. Thanks. But your timing range is excellent. Let's keep this going. Stunning. My consultant gives me a lolly.
What?
I know. He goes, here you go. Here's a lolly. You did great.
I'm going to see the wrong consultant. Why am I not getting lollies at my appointments, please? Can I ask my consultant?
He's great. I just go in, I go, Ken. He's called Ken. He's great.
He's called Ken.
I know.
I love it. Has he got Kenergy?
He has.
He has got Kenergy.
Such a legend. And I go in and I'm like, I need a letter for 3 weeks ago. Can you do it? And he's like, what do you need me to say? And where do I need to send it?
He is more than
I'm like,
enough.
Here
more than
is
enough.
the details. Thank you.
Oh,
yeah,
thank
he's a good
you.
man.
Thank you so much for that, Lee. That was hilarious. Okay, and listen, before I let you go, we always like to finish these shows on a positive note.
I can tell you didn't come up with these.
You know me so well. That was the production team.
Thought so.
Okay.
Big up the production team.
Big up the production team.
Because it'd be quite boring if it wasn't for you.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. So what is the best piece of advice that you have been given?
Oh, probably
Inspire others.
just my mum.
Oh,
She's great.
We love your mum.
We love my mum. I think like I was brought up obviously by my mum. But she is so like, no matter her own self-doubts in my life, no mountain was too strong, like too high. And nothing was ever too much to want or work for. And she's the reason I come back stronger every time.
I love that.
And she was like, she said to me the other day, she's like, you've made me realise that you can't add days to your life, but you can add life to your days. So it's just find something little in it every day and you're going to cry. God.
I know, I love your mum though. She is an actual angel.
Yeah, she's good.
Shout out to V's mum. We love you.
Yeah, but she is, no,
That's
she's the reason. My mum is just my biggest piece of advice. She is just the reason I come back stronger every single time, no matter what.
And that is a beautiful piece of advice. And to anybody, not just to people living with type 1. That's an incredible thing to share.
Just like find a bit of joy in every day.
Absolutely.
Because you don't know how long you've got left.
Absolutely. No.
It's all good fun. Here for a good time, not a long time.
See, now this is the reason that I fell in love with you.
Too blessed to be stressed, you know? Why not? Overdressed, never stressed. Always.
Honestly, you are like a walking motivational quote. I absolutely love it.
It's all right. Josh will have a bit written by me soon, apparently. So it's fine. 9.99.
Okay. No, I mean, in all honesty, you really are inspiring. You are motivational. You are just...
Couldn't have done it without you.
Thank you. And I just know that our viewers and listeners are going to have been super inspired by hearing your story.
Don't make me feel sick.
All right, I was trying to be nice for a second there. I won't.
You're giving me the ick.
Oh, there we go. Right, well, listen, if Verity has not given you the ick today and you have enjoyed watching this show, then please make sure to hit that subscribe button for more content like this. Thank you again, Verity.
Thanks so much
for just being such an amazing guest. And if people don't know where to find you online, where can they find you?
On my Instagram. Verity Pits.
Verity Pits on Insta. And your TikTok?
Verity Pits 00.
Verity Pits 00. Okay.
Apparently I made an account and I can't remember the password, so I had to make a new one.
Thank you all so much for watching this show. And of course, if you would like to be on an episode of Typecast, you can email us at typecast@insulet.com with your name, age, location, and what you'd like to chat about. Or if you would just like to share your funny stories, please do get in touch with us on socials and we may read some of them out. Until next time, guys, just keep being sassy like Verity.
Oh, God, you're going to make my head too big. It's not going to fit through his jaw.